New York City officials finally admit that people who suffered from eviction make up less than 1% of the people in homeless shelters. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have quite the topic for you today, and it's going over the issue of homelessness, evictions, illegal immigration, all of it, and it's all about New York City. Obviously, I love covering articles about New York because it is the worst case scenario for this far left progressivism, and it shows you, hey, if you put these sort of laws into place, if you put these sort of policies into place, this is what you can expect. And that's really just a warning for the rest of the country that, hey, maybe we should really think about what we're doing. You know, good intentions can lead to awful consequences for the people who live there. Okay, so this story is actually, it's not directly to deal with landlords, but they did bring up the whole eviction moratorium thing because it has to do with homelessness, right? And you see, what I've been reading about lately is how the state of Texas has been shipping busloads of illegal immigrants up to New York City, right? And this has caused their homeless shelters to become overflowing with people. Now, obviously, I don't give a crap, okay? They said that they were a sanctuary city. They said they were welcoming to illegal immigrants, so they should just deal with it. That's the plan, right? So, because their shelters are so overflowing, the New York City in their infinite wisdom decided that, hey, we're going to start leasing out whole hotels to house these homeless people, right? And a lot of people, they thought, well, the reason that these the shelters are so full is because landlords have been evicting so many people. That's when the New York City officials came out and admitted that, hey, very little of the people in these homeless shelters is actually in there because they were evicted. Okay, very little, about 1%. That's how little, okay? The majority of the people in there are in there for other reasons, okay? And I'd be willing to bet a lot of the people in the shelter are in there because of mental health issues, because of substance abuse issues, okay? And those are the main two things. When you see people out on the street and they're sleeping, you know, it's not because they got evicted from their apartment. Most people who are getting evicted, they have family or friends who are able to help them out. They might be sleeping at their house temporarily until they can find another place to stay. But, they don't end up in the homeless shelter, and especially not long term. Okay, so yeah, it's quite an interesting article. It goes over several of the topics I'm pretty passionate about. And, like I said, it really goes to show you the kind of mess that these really far left-leaning progressive cities create. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? What do you think of a city like New York City renting out whole hotels to house the homeless? Now, obviously, they haven't built enough homeless shelters for the homeless in New York, right? And so that's the reason why they're building all these hotels, or leasing out these hotels. But then the question becomes, hey, is this the best use of money? Would it have been cheaper if we had actually built the shelters? Or is this a better option overall? I don't know. I don't know enough about the situation to say, hey, leasing out full hotels to house the homeless is a good idea or not. All I know is that, they're attracting the homelessness. They've decriminalized the homeless to the point where, hey, they've caused great problems for, business owners and for the people who are residents of the city, okay? Anyway, let's get into this article, and it's coming from globestreet.com, and it says, New York City resumes leasing hotels for the homeless. City leases 11 hotels as it copes with an influx of migrants sent on buses from Texas. Let's get into it. With busloads full of migrants from the U.S. border in Texas arriving each week in Midtown Manhattan, swelling an already surging homeless population, New York City has disclosed that it is renting 11 hotels in the city for use as shelters. The hotels being leased to the city as homeless shelters include the Marcel in Gramercy, the Apollo in Harlem, and the Ellington in Morningside Heights, according to a report in City Limits. The decision by the mayor's office to rent hotel space represents a reversal for New York City, which at the beginning of 2022 had phased out commercial lodgings for homeless children following a substantial drop in the overall shelter population last year. New York City's Department of Social Services told New York City Council last week that more than 4,000 migrants entered the city's shelter system during the past 2 months, City Limits reported. Yeah, well, you know what? The entire country is being, basically, they had more than 200,000 people cross over the border from Mexico into the United States last month in July, okay? So New York City is obviously going to be one of the prime locations where these people want to move to. And if they get thousands of them, that won't be a big surprise because, it's to be expected. We're getting people everywhere, here, there, everywhere. There are people, going all over the country. Basically there's this huge illegal immigrant population that is coming over the border right now because they know they can enter the country and they know that they won't get sent home. And you have to deal with it just like we do here. Don't think that, this is, just something that's happening in New York. No, it's happening in Omaha too, okay? Plenty of illegal immigrants are moving here too. Now, just because you're getting more of them, that's because, you are the biggest city in the entire country. City of 8 million people. Of course you're going to get more people from over the border than anywhere else. So you have to deal with that influx. And, this it's not politics, okay? This is just a fact. Whether Texas sends them on a bus or if they just found their own transportation, they're coming. And the only way we can stop it is if we, seal the borders up and we tell these people they got to go back to their home countries. If we just keep allowing them in, that's not going to happen, okay? And this is the result. We're going to see, a lot of pressure put on all these social programs that you guys wanted to put in place. Guess what? They're going to come over here. They're going to want free education, free health care. They're going to get, housing assistance. They're going to get, welfare. They're going to get all that stuff. And it's, you're the welcoming city. You're going to have to pay for it. Well, there's a lot of people who don't want that, okay? And unfortunately, the politicians in these places, they're not listening to those people who are saying, hey, maybe we need to slow down these border crossings. No, they're not listening to that, okay? And now you're getting upset because your shelters are being overrun. Funny how the tables turn when people like me were saying years ago that it's ridiculous and we need to stop this, and you were saying, oh, no, that's wrong. But, whatever. Let me keep going. I'm off on a rant. I've got, a lot of issues with illegal immigration, and I am pretty dead set against it, okay? But, then it comes into the homeless issue, obviously, and the landlord issue. And that's really what we're here for today, okay? Now, I'm a landlord, so being, the fact that we get blamed for the homelessness issue, it just has always bothered me. And I've always said that it's BS, it's garbage, okay? They have no proof whatsoever that landlords are to blame for the homelessness issue. And the city of New York actually is helping me out because they bring statistics that say that exact thing in it, okay? So I'm going to skip down a little bit. Because, in the article, they just go over, the whole reason why the homeless shelters are full and the whole thing with Texas and New York that's going on right now. And it says, Gary Jenkins, New York City's DSS commissioner, confirmed at last week's hearing of the City Council's General Welfare Committee that the increasing number of migrants coming into the city has been driving the surge at shelters. The uptick has been largely driven by an increasing migrant population seeking asylum, Jenkins said. Despite the expiration of the state's pandemic eviction moratorium in January and record high rents, Jenkins noted that evictions have accounted for just 1% of the people entering New York City's shelter system since January. So yeah, this guy, he is, one of the bureaucrats in charge of the shelters. And guess what? He's saying, hey, you know what? Evictions are not the reason why these shelters are full. Okay? Don't believe the nonsense that these tenant advocates are spewing. Okay? The truth of the matter is, this is being caused by illegal immigration. Now, I'm sure that is, burning a lot of people and, making them mad and upset, but it is the truth, okay? Landlords are not to blame for all of the homeless people sitting in these shelters. Landlords are not to blame. Illegal immigration is to blame, okay? Advocates for homeless New Yorkers question the statistics provided by Jenkins, which also have been cited recently by Mayor Eric Adams. The Legal Aid Society and Coalition for the Homeless criticized what it called unsupported claims that recent influxes in the shelter census are due primarily to an influx of asylum seekers. So yeah, to me, it doesn't make sense that they are questioning the statistics from the people who operate the shelters. Okay, these people operate the shelters. They work in the shelters every day, and they're going, no. What you see every day, that's not the truth. Okay, now, most of the time, I wouldn't believe it either. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, I know that there are so many people crossing the border. I mean, we've seen the news articles. 200,000 people crossing over the border of Mexico into the U.S. in a single month. Okay. Nearly, I think they said that in the last year, it's been like 2 million people who have crossed the border. The majority of those people, due to the president and his policies, are not being sent back. They are being allowed to stay in this country. So you can't tell me that you don't expect for, hey, there's going to be a lot of migrants or whatever they want to call them. I call them illegal aliens. There's going to be a lot of illegal aliens all over the country who weren't here a year ago. So yeah, they need to get their heads out of their butts and realize that, hey, landlords aren't to blame. Illegal immigration is to blame. And this whole homeless issue is, it's greatly being driven by just tons of illegal border crossings.